Now, how do you feel about me wanting to look more attractive? I mean, as I was writing today about that in my Positive Aspects book, I remember that at one time I felt that it was important for me to accept.
You are upon something very important here. You see, here is the way it has come about, not just with you, but with almost all that we know. You have this desire, you are born with it, for freedom and growth and joy. And as you look around the world, you choose things that you want. But because, for the most part, you have not understood, you or anyone else, the power of thought or how it all fits together, you have found yourself seeing things that you want that you're not believing that you have, or even in the comparison, seeing someone who is beautiful and comparing yourself and not feeling as beautiful. And so in the comparison you say, I don't want those grapes anyway, for they are sour. And so from that has become the attitude that it is not proper to be vain. In other words, one should not give so much attention to something so vain as beauty. After all, beauty is only skin deep, or after all, the true merit of a being is within, that sort of thing. And all of that is all right. We are not saying that that is not all right to feel that way. What we are saying is that when you don't feel that way, but you say the words, then you are resisting. You're actually adding unto the thing that you do not want. When you are seeing, let us say that you see a beautiful woman, and everything about her is really just right. Her figure is just right. Her attitude is dynamic. She seems free and happy. She is really the picture of a happy woman. And as you see her, if that picture uplifts you, then that is an indication to you that you are on your way to that which you see harmonizes with that which you want, and in your moment of positive emotion, your inner being is saying you and the energy of the universe and that which you are seeing and the feeling that you have are all one. You are in harmony with this. But if you see it and you find reason to be critical, probably never worked a day in her life, probably just sits around and puts mud packs on her face, probably has no stress, you are getting the picture. Then what is happening is you are in your position of lack, now trying to justify your position of lack. Doing so by putting the other one down, so to speak. It is a common thing, whether it doesn't matter what it is that they have that you want that you don't feel you have. Anytime you are feeling jealousy, and you know the feeling, there are only two emotions, one feels good and one feels bad, but you know the one called jealousy, the one when you see something that another has and you want it but you don't have it, and your inner being is shouting to you loudly and clearly, you want this, but you're focused in opposition of it. Right now, you're taking the non-physical energy of the universe and sending it in opposition of what you really want. And so what we would say to you is, it is all right for you to want anything. And we would not call you vain, we would call you wanter. The reason that you have come to feel vanity or see it in others is because you are coming from a position of lack, and then you are trying to ease the pain of that position of lack by saying, I don't want that anyway. You see, there are only two ways to get rid of negative emotion. First of all, let us remind ourselves what is negative emotion. Negative emotion is your inner being reminding you that you're resisting whatever you're giving the thought to. If someone you did not know called you on the telephone and said, I will never call you again, you would say what? Who cares? In other words, you didn't want them to begin with, so their going away wouldn't bother you. And so there would be no negative emotion. But if someone very important to you were to call you on the telephone and say, I will never see you again, you would feel lack, you would feel negative emotion. You're getting the point. Therefore, what we are saying is, whenever you are feeling negative emotion, your inner being is saying, you are not allowing this that you want in, you are resisting it. You take part of the non-physical energy and you say, I want. And in your negative feeling, you are taking part of the non-physical energy and saying, I want it, but I'm not going to get it. And so that is resistance. That is what that little tug of war, that is why it is uncomfortable. You're not in the flow of things, you see.
Now, at a sketching class that I took, the teacher said, we sketched each other as we were looking at each other, pairs. And she said, an older person is much more interesting to sketch. There's a lot more to sketch there. While a young person doesn't have the interesting lines. And that's what came to my mind, and that may be part of even the negative. I was wondering, should I be... What you're saying to me is the fact that I want something, that lends legitimacy to it. I mean, that's all there is. I want it.
And that is enough.
And that's enough.
And you cannot want something without having the potential of having it.
Okay.
That it defies law.
Right.
If you are wanting it, it can be yours. And you have this glorious guidance system telling you every time you're going astray from having it. Every time you feel negative emotion, that is your guidance system telling you you're pushing against something you want. Relax, change the thought, and let it be.
Yeah. It just feels like I want my body to catch up with the rest of me. It seems like in terms of money and relationships, and there's a lot of things in which I almost feel as if I've made quantum leaps in terms of what I was before I knew about Abraham.
Absolutely.
And I probably am trying too hard, or
that
whatever.
is part of it. Trying too hard is resisting for this reason. When you think about this, if you decide that you want to go to the grocery store and buy a quart of milk, do you ever find yourself trying too hard? Or do you just go get it?
Yeah, just go get it.
And the reason you just go get it is because you have absolute knowledge. You know that you have the ability to go. You know you have the money in your purse. You know the milk will be there when you get there. In other words, there is no doubt, and so there is no trying against anything. And so whenever you're trying too hard, what is happening is there is a part of you that is not believing that it can be, and so in your wanting to compensate with action, you offer more action. And what we are wanting you to understand is that you cannot act enough. There is not enough action in the world to compensate for your taking part of the energy and sending it in the other direction in the form of negative emotion. If you've got negative emotion about something, you're stuck there, and no action is going to change it. The only thing that's going to change it is by releasing the thought which is bringing forth the negative emotion, replacing it with a thought that brings positive emotion, and then the action will come joyfully, you see.
Mm-hmm. Yes, many, many examples are flashing through my head now.
If you'll just look for reasons to feel positive emotion, and the best time to do it is in a time when you're feeling negative emotion. In other words, your positive aspect book will serve you very well, even a mental one, if you will stop for a moment and say, now wait a minute, I'm feeling rotten here. Mm-hmm. Don't try to figure out why you're feeling rotten. What you tend to do is you try to justify it, because at the core of your being, you're wanting to be right, you're wanting to be balanced, you're wanting to feel good. And so when you don't feel good, the tendency is to try to justify. We heard Esther regarding the hotel that kept being not prepared for them. And so as she is making her statements of criticism to them, she is feeling negative emotion, and then she feels like she must defend her statements of criticism. And so she says things like, I have called them just today. I wrote them a letter. Why don't these people listen? What kind of staff do they have? All the while, she is now picking on them, attracting more negative from them in an attempt to justify her own negative emotion. And we say, you don't have to justify your negative emotion. Your negative emotion is your guidance. Acknowledge your negative emotion. Nobody's judging you. You don't have to justify your position. Acknowledge your negative emotion. Recognize you're resisting something you want, and then look for the positive aspects within this. And as you look for the positive aspects, your feeling changes. And as soon as your feeling changes, you're no longer resisting. And as soon as you're no longer resisting, you're getting what you want.